Welcome to Set Life. I'm Amber Buto, and my guest host today is
Jake Friels.
And we are sitting in studio today with, once again, one of our studio friends that we love and adore, Brandon Washington.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us. It's always a joy when you're here. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's good times, good times. So we're going to get to talk about your story today, which I think is a really fascinating, great story of the unconventional way, as you would say, of getting into the industry. But let's talk a little bit about, like we do with everybody else, who is Brandon Washington? You know, where are you from? Where, you know, how did you arrive?
I mean, so I'm based here in Houston, Texas. Grew up here, but I have family in Los Angeles. So as a kid, I flew back and forth between Houston and LA a lot. So I say LA is like my second home.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, I'm a family man, got 2 kids, married. When I'm not shooting or editing something, like my entire life is my family and my kids. So like my oldest one plays baseball. So we are a huge baseball family. We like travel and all that craziness. So there's like 2 very split lives. There's like the creative life, and then there's like dad life.
Yeah.
Which is like high priority for me. So
yeah.
I get that.
That's right. He has.
I got 4 kids, and
wow.
Yeah, so we are in full game mode right now. So from dance to jiu-jitsu to all of it. So I get that 100%.
Yeah, just running from one activity to the next.
Yeah.
But I think that's so cool being a creative, like that you're able to run family and run the creative aspect of what you're doing.
Yeah, that's the juggle.
Yeah.
That's like the constant juggle. It's like, how do you maintain like that work-life balance when like work seems to never stop?
Yeah.
So that's like a constant thing that I'm like actively working on every day. It's not like a solution. It's just like a constant juggling act nonstop.
Yeah. I don't know we ever arrive in that, but I think it is important to have it as a goal, right? Like you're persistently thinking or pursuing that kind of idea, but I don't know that you ever arrive.
No, I think, life comes in seasons.
Yeah.
So like right now we're in the middle of baseball season. So I'm like heavy dad mode, heavy family time. But then like baseball season will take its break. The kids will stop doing activities for a little while. And then during that time, I can double down a little bit harder on work.
Yeah.
But for me, as long as like the family life is good, it makes my creative life way easier. If the family stuff isn't gelling well, I can feel it in the work. And so like I've just learned, prioritize the family. Family comes first. If they're good, we're good, work just becomes so much easier.
Yeah. That was the lead into my next question. Actually, how much do you think you get inspiration from your family?
Oh, I mean, today, so much. Actually, it's kind of funny. So I mentioned I have 2 boys, and they're 7 and 10. And so from the creative, like being a creator, YouTube content creator, that whole lifespan, it's crazy how much influence they actually give me. Like they teach me stuff. Constantly, because they consume the content too. That they'll actually give me like ideas and like give me strategy, which is like crazy to hear. They've even taught me like new editing tools that I didn't know existed. Like my 7-year-old, one day I was complaining about, we were actually working on a client project. So it wasn't even for YouTube, it was a client project. And I was just complaining to my wife. I was like, I got this client. She wants me to put captions on every single one of her videos. And she wants them to be like, we got to go through, we got to send them off. It's going to be expensive and blah, blah, blah. And my 7-year-old was like, Dad, download CapCut. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, CapCut, it'll do it for you. And I was like, thanks, Jensen, and like, kind of like I appreciate you, like, but this is daddy's work.
Right.
And then like later on, he just like walked up to me and was like, look, and he showed it to me. And when I tell you, it was like a light bulb explosion moment that I was just like, okay, there's a new world out here, and I am not as educated as I thought I was. And because my kids, like, they see dad create, they see dad on YouTube, they want to do it too. They've started dabbling in tools for themselves. And now they're even teaching me stuff. So it's been really, really cool.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really great. Oh, children. Man, we just think we're raising them, and half I think they're raising us at times.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. But I can say, because your YouTube world, that's your influences there, and your other platforms. But this next generation, like this is all they've ever known, right? Like we've had to learn these things. Like this is all they've ever known. Like they just came up in it like your children.
Yeah. So they adopt it much faster.
Yeah.
And so the things that I may stand back and be like, is this really the thing? Is this what we're doing now?
Yeah.
And like, they're just like, yep, this is it, Dad. You need to start posting this. You need to start posting shorts. You need to start doing this.
Yeah.
Add this to your link in your comments and blah, blah, blah. And like, they have all these things because the other creators that they watch are doing it.
Yeah.
And they can like, now they're at a place where they're not just watching the content, they're also analyzing the content, and then they're feeding me that information. So it's been really cool. Like it's interesting to see how they are even developing as their own creators. Like my 7-year-old is actually working on his first script right now, which is kind of really crazy to think about. But like, he was like, Dad, I want to make a movie this summer when my cousins come in town. And I was like, all right, well, you need a script. And I started talking to him a little bit about story. And so like, he's working on a script now. And like, that just warms my heart all day.
Yeah, wow. It does.
My daughter's doing the same right now. So she's always in this mode of like, she sees all the stuff on Instagram and like the cool photos, and she's a dancer and an artist. So she always wants to do this like crazy pose. And she's like, Dad, we need to find the right place, the right spot. And you need to do this angle and you need to, and Dad, and I'm like, what are you're 10 years old. And you're like, you're framing the shot already. And she literally, it blows me away. She can frame shots already at 10 years old. That you're just like, how did you do that?
They're going to be so much better than us.
Yes.
I love it.
Literally.
I love it. That's it. I just want to keep growing for me so that way their bar is just like
that's right.
way higher. They can just reach out so much further.
And I know that is such a big passion of yours too. I know we're going to get into that in a little bit, like some of like what you're doing with your content. But before we move on to that is, what did you do before you became, once a creator, always creator, they say, but what did you do before you realized, hey, this is like, I want to take this into a career, or this is looking like a career? What did that look like for you?
Full transparency, when I first picked up a camera, I didn't even know you could make money with it. Yeah. I was a professional dancer for years and like traveled and worked with different churches and did background dancing and all that kind of stuff. And around that time, like dance crews and like the TV shows, like America's Best Dance Crew and all that stuff was really popping up. And so a lot of dance crews were like filming their choreography and posting it online to try to get discovered. And so me and my crew at the time, we were like, we need to do some videos. And I was like, I want to do them. So like I went and bought a camera and I was like, all right, I'm going to film some of these dance videos. And before I knew it, I was like choreographing the dances, but not wanting to actually be in the videos because I wanted to control the shots and the angles and pick the locations. And it was easier for me to like see what wasn't working, because when you film dance videos, even if everybody's doing the choreography right, if everyone's not in the exact right place, it doesn't give the right illusion that you're going for. And so I found myself being like wanting to stay behind the camera. And so I did that for a few years and kind of posted some of those videos on YouTube and just kind of enjoyed it. And then I just found myself wanting to stay behind the camera more. Yeah. And for me, like I said, I didn't know you can make money with a camera. Like at some point someone was like, hey, do you want to shoot a wedding? And they were like, yeah, they make like $1,000 or $2,000 a wedding. And I was like, oh, that'll pay off my camera. Like, yeah, let's go. And I tried that and I was like, that's not for me. I was like, I don't do weddings. But the way I found there was like more value for cameras was actually, so I've always been like kind of like a hustler, I guess. Like as a kid, like I sold like candy bars at school or did whatever it took to kind of make some extra cash. And this was right after me and my wife had our son. I wanted us to go on vacation, but we had just had a baby. We were fairly young. And so I was like, I can't afford for us to go like on a vacation house. So I was like, let me find someone who needs like photos or video of their vacation house, and maybe they'll like exchange this for their house. And I did that. This is like before Airbnb, so I'm dating myself a little bit. Right. But I found this website and I just started like messaging as many houses that looked like they had really crappy photos and video. And I was like, hey, like, how would you like some free photos and video? Just let me come stay in your house for like 2 nights. And I just knew I was going to bring my family. And I was like, and I'll take these photos and videos for free. And I messaged a bunch of people and I got a few like people who were like interested, but then this one lady messaged me back and she was like, I've got 4 properties. Can you stay for a week?
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And I told my wife, I was like, hey, we're going to South Padre for a week and the house is completely taken care of. And it was like this really nice beach house. And so for the first 2 days, my wife helped me and we just went to all of her houses, knocked them all out. And then we just enjoyed the rest of the week on vacation. And that's when like a light bulb hit me. I was like, huh. people value photos and video.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something here. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I got started into like trying to make it somewhat of a career.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
This never gets old. All the stories and everything I hear, it's just so great to see how people have been able, like yourself, to hustle up the business with what's in their hand, with the camera that's in their hand, to be able to do that. I just think that is so amazing that you went through and was like, had an idea, and then followed through with that idea. And stayed persistently seeking that idea to eventually, like, I'm not giving up until we get a vacation house. You know, I mean, that's props to you, Brandon. That's excellent. That's great to get you into it. So
and I think that's being an opportunist in this world, is seeing everything as an opportunity. You know, so I mean, knowing the craft that's in your hand and going, man, I have added value that I could bring to something. It may not be the monetary right now, but what I carry and who I am brings value to this, you know? And I think that's the moment that, like what you were saying, is like, holy cow, like I'm added value, and in my skill is value. And now it becomes the monetization after that. So, I mean, I think that's incredible. That's awesome.
Oh, appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay. So we've had a fantastic vacation and we've shot some houses, and then what?
Well, so I took those videos and I put them online, and I just, cause like after I realized that somebody needs this, I thought it was just vacation houses, honestly. I posted it on Facebook, and I was like, hey, if you know anybody who has a vacation house who needs videos and photos, because my mindset at that point was, I'm just gonna live on vacations, like nonstop. I'm just gonna travel, go on vacation, shoot vacation homes, and me and my family will just be on vacation forever. But I posted it online, and a mortgage lender actually reached out and was like, I have realtors who need this. And I didn't realize that this was like a thing that, like, you know, real estate, because I mean, I was like maybe 22, 23 at the time, so I had no idea. And he was like, I know people that want this, that will need this. And so me and him started partnering up, and just like for the next like 3 or 4 years, we just met as many realtors as we could. We started introducing drones. This is kind of like, man, I'm dating myself bad. This is like before gimbals came out. So it took us a long time to like shoot some of these houses. So like the value was really, really high. And then as the tech kind of caught up with us, gimbals got us to a place where, I mean, where it would take me like 2 to 3 hours to shoot one house, you put a gimbal in my hand and I could knock out the house in like an hour. So I got to a point where I was shooting like 3 houses a day. And that's what really helped me to leave my full-time job. At the time, I was working at Apple, and just like literally my 2 days off a week, I would just be shooting 2 to 3 houses. And I got to a point where I was like calling in or saying like, hey, I'm gonna be late, or trying to trade schedules, because I realized that I could make more money shooting a couple houses a day than I would make actually going into work. And I just kind of kept doing that until I got to a point where I was like, if I don't quit, they're gonna fire me. So I wanted to leave on as good a note as I possibly could. But I just knew as I was going through those couple years of journey that I was like, this is what I want to do. I just want to operate with cameras. I want to create stuff. And, you know, doing the real estate wasn't like my passion, but I knew that it was close enough to allow me to continue to practice my skills, but it also would allow me to buy back my time. So then I could pursue my passions. And that's exactly kind of like was my plan. And so when I knew it was time to quit, I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to get back 40 hours of my week, and I'm going to start allocating some of those hours towards more of my passion and try to find like my own path.
And I think like that is so worth repeating and so worth bringing to the light again. You may not get to do your passion, your first job with a camera. That you have to find a way to make it into a business, you know, to make a profit with it, so that it does free up some time for you then to get to work on your passion projects.
And then during that process, I was still learning the skill sets, because like now, even like the skill sets that I learned from shooting, I don't know how many houses, hundreds, maybe 1,000 houses plus, like I'm really efficient with a gimbal. I can balance a gimbal in like matter of seconds, you know, like it really taught me how to find the right angles, because, you know, when you shoot pretty stuff all the time, it can be very easy to be like, oh yeah, I'm really good at this. But when you got to make an empty house look appealing,
Yeah.
like, and be
Yeah.
worth buying, it really forces you to kind of think outside the box and think of new creative angles. And you learn how to edit really, really fast because like shooting for realtors is probably one of the most demanding jobs there are.
I've heard
Because
that.
like the second you're done shooting, they're like, where's video? Is it
Yeah.
not done yet?
Yeah.
I need to list this house yesterday, you know? And then like picking the right music and everything. And you get a chance to learn how to work with other people and like have like demanding clients.
Yeah.
And like that's a skill set that you need in this industry because, you know, no matter what set you're on and no matter what job you're doing, like you're always working with other people. And so it just teaches you how to like operate with people in a creative but professional work environment. So
And I like that you're touching on different industries. So, like you said, weddings just aren't for you. And I've also heard other videographers or photographers that have said, like, I cannot do the real estate world. Like, that is just, they are so exactly what you said. They're so demanding, they're this and that. But then then other people are like, I can't do the brides and the whole family and all of this with the wedding things. And then, you know, each industry that you're able to capture, some can't do, you know, with the higher end clients that are really particular and have all these specialty things they're going to ask for. So it's finding a home for you and what you're comfortable with, you know, what you can thrive in, what you want to take with you to the next phase of your life, and what do you want to leave behind.
yeah, I mean, I think every creator, no matter what industry you try to film in, you have to find what works well for you, you know? Like all of us are individually different, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm a very like logical person.
Yeah.
Like if you just make it make sense, I'm on board.
Yeah.
When something doesn't make sense or it's emotionally based, I personally am just like, whoa, this is too washy for me. And so like for me, I learned like I was like, oh, weddings are a very emotional situation.
Yeah.
The whole transaction is emotional.
Yeah.
This is not good for me.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no logic here. I was like, you wanted a video, I gave you a video. Like that's it, right? And I just realized it's not weddings or it's not me. It's just like we're just two different puzzle pieces that don't go together, and that's okay, you know.
Perfect.
But there's somebody else who's like the perfect puzzle piece, and I'm like, oh, you don't want me, you want that guy. Go call him, you know. Like I've got friends now who are really good at weddings and they love doing them, and I'm like, good for you, because I know who to call. So when people call me for those things, I'm like, oh, you got to call Jason. Like, don't talk to me, call Jason. And so I just think it's, you know, it's finding the right, you know, puzzle piece for you. And you're going to have different puzzle pieces throughout your journey. Like there are times where I get overwhelmed with real estate. I mean, like now I don't do as much as I used to. It's because like I've changed, like, and that's part of the journey. It's like your mold is going to change. Like I wanted to do bigger projects, and real estate's just really not that big. And so I wanted to do bigger stuff. And so as I've kind of transitioned out of that world and into like other creative endeavors, like my mold changes. So then like the projects I take change along with it, which I think is good.
Yeah.
But it takes you creating a sustainability of the real estate world to actually give you the platform to go do your passion and go do what you want to do, you know. And I think that is a big lesson learning growing up in this industry is people are excited to go film or do whatever, but it's like, but what do you put in place to create sustainability, to create an income so that you can actually go do what you want to do, and you're not just doing everything that's thrown at you. And I think that's what happens all the time, right? Is that I just want to film and I want to use a camera, and so then you start filming everything, and then you have no idea who you are or what you are, and then you get lost in the process, then you give up and you quit, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, like I know for me, like when I first got it started, there was a lot of people who were like, oh, can you shoot a music video? Shoot a music video. And I was like, okay, yeah, I like music. I like music videos. I like watching them. So of course I'll love filming them.
Sure.
And I learned very quickly, I was like, oh, I don't like this environment. I was like, I mean, me and my wife, we had our first kid when I was 20. So we started really, really young. Yeah. And I realized really quick, I was like, oh, I don't want to film in an environment that I can't bring my family.
Yeah.
And like, that was like, and that's just a me thing, right?
Yeah.
That's a Brandon thing.
Right.
And so
true.
I realized like, oh yeah, this is not the environment I want to film in. which is totally like, that's just something that you're gonna learn. But
Yeah.
like when you're first starting out, if you do take every single job, like I think for the first like year or two, it's good to try everything
Yeah.
because you don't know what
Yeah.
you
Sure.
like and what you don't, right?
Sure.
So try as much things as you can, try as many different sets, get on whatever
Yeah.
project you can. But then when you have that gut feeling like, oh, this is something I should be saying no to, I think it's so important too, because the time that you spend working on projects that you don't want to do,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it creatively corrodes you from
Yeah.
the inside
Mhm.
because like
Mhm.
you're on set and you don't want to be there. And then you take this, if you got to edit it, you're working on the
Yeah.
project, you feel like you're like, oh, I'm a bad editor. It's like, you're not a bad editor. You just don't want to edit this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like if you
Yeah.
were editing something you were actually passionate about, you'd probably be a fantastic editor. So
Yeah.
I think as a creator, it's so important, like you said, to like find the thing you want to work on and then say no to the things you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that way you can like improve in the right areas
Yeah.
and then you'll
Mhm.
improve so much faster too.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and I think it's too knowing your value and also having your own standard of morals that you carry, and not letting the industry dictate that,
Oh yeah,
but that you dictate that.
Yeah.
of course.
And that you have that power and control starting out in this industry. You have the ability to say what environments you want to go into and not go into, and be kind about that.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
think there's just like this misconception that like if I say no, I'll
Yes.
never get a job ever again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is
correct.
just not true. You know,
Correct.
like
Right.
it's okay to say no to certain things. And like I think you're right. Like you should have like your own internal
Mhm.
morals.
Yeah.
Like I've like one of mine just kind of like I said, I don't want to be on a set that I can't bring my family to.
Mhm.
I don't want to edit anything that I couldn't have my kids sitting on my lap watching me edit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the music video industry, there's a lot of stuff that my kids could not watch me edit, you know? And so that was a moral for me up front. Like
Yeah.
we're a Christian household, so I just say like I'm not going to bring anything into this house that would like skew my family astray, and I don't care how much money is attached to it.
Yeah.
And so if you make that moral decision like up front, it becomes so much easier
Yeah.
to not get pushed and pulled by the industry because the industry will try to push you. Like, I mean, this just kind of, you know, we're working in the world. So
Yeah.
you have
Yep.
to be able to kind of like have your morals and then kind of stick to them. So
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's very wise, very mature. And, you know, that's a lot of self seeking part of the camera. Like, part the
Yeah.
camera, part everything else. That's
Yeah.
a thing that's inside of you that
Yep.
that you have to cultivate.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what you're going to touch in life, but that's something that, you know, you really have to seek on your own. And then when the gift, when the camera, when the whatever gets into your hand, remember it's you that's operating that
Right. Yep.
causes what happens behind it. So man, props to you
Yeah.
for sticking to that and staying to
Absolutely.
that. And you know, we can see the blessings that are coming from that. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I think there's always the saying, you know, when you say no to something, you're saying yes to something else.
Mhm.
You know, and I think people have to understand that is every no is a yes to something. And I think that's whenever we begin to trust God in the process of saying no to that and then going yes to what's coming. And you
Right.
don't know what's coming. You don't know
Right.
what he's going to bring you, right? You don't know what the next step is. But having the confidence to go, I trust in the process. And I think that's the biggest thing that we're all learning and growing in is actually being able to trust the process.
Yeah.
You know, and it's scary, you know, to be honest. I mean, like you said, when you made the jump, you know, out of Apple into full time, like there's a process right there that gets scary. Like you got kids you got to feed, your wife's
Right.
got to eat, you got to have gas in your car. And it's like, well, man, I got to now make this step, you know, and I think that's in every part of the journey and in the industry, you've got to make another step,
Right.
you know? And so stepping out of just doing homes in the real estate world, then making another step. And it's like every step costs more faith of going, I trust the process.
Yeah. And I think, you know, as you are a creator and as you're going through the journey, you have to just like find those wins because you learn a lot about yourself through those
Mhm.
wins.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh wait, I can do this. Like I think
Mhm.
there's like I know like a big issue that a lot of creators, and trust me, I deal with it a lot, is imposter syndrome. Feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be here, or how did I get here? And like I actually talked to my therapist and I was like, I have imposter syndrome, I think, and we need to kind of work this out. And he was like, actually, it's actually kind of a good thing because it forces you to
Yeah.
work harder than you think you need to.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why you've been able to be successful.
Yeah.
And so now when I have those feelings, I don't look at them as like I need to stop everything. It's like, okay, I'm feeling this way,
Mm.
but like so what do I need to do about it? What work needs to happen so I can feel justified in what I'm doing? And that hard work, I think, you know, it doesn't matter really what you're doing, no matter what your role is on set. Like, if you're willing to outwork the next person, like, you're going to find success. Like, it's really the only thing that I've seen from the successful people that I've either worked with or I've shot for. I've found that, like, the one commonality they all have is just that they're just like, yeah, no, you just can't outwork me. And I'm like, I can outwork you. And like we have that conversation. It's really cool that, like, you know, we're both willing, no matter what it is that we're trying to accomplish, that, like, if you just work really, really hard. And part of working hard isn't just like a lot of time. It's also like taking a time to step back and really think through the process. You know, like, working hard is working smart. And so, like, thinking about, okay, if I do this, I'm going to do this. I won't have as much time with my family, so that's probably not the way to go. And so, but what if I do it this way? Now I'm only working like from like 9 to 5 when my kids are in school, or when my wife can pick up the kids. So now it works within our schedule. So now I can do this. And so it really does take like physical hard work, time hard work, but it also takes like thinking it through. And I think that'll help a lot.
And I totally agree with the hard work thing. You know, I was on a feature in the summer, and I was a producer on it, and it was just crazy to me that you would go up to set, there's 100 people on set, and I'm like picking up trash, going to get the, you know, everyone's like, stop that, like, stop, you're not supposed to do that. And I'm like, well, somebody's got to do it. Like, I mean, this all has to be done. We all have to work together. Like, I think when you get to a set, when you get to a job, there is no job too small and there is no job too big. Make yourself useful, pay attention, and be humble to know you don't know everything. And be willing to learn something every day. I mean, just shooting this today, you know, I will learn something, you know, just putting all this together, all the guests, everybody, I'm always open to learn from every environment, every occasion, every person, you know, have that growth mentality in what you approach and what you're going to do with the industry, you know, and I agree. They will ask you back. They will ask you back on set. They will ask you back in the job.
Yeah, and I think I always say this: the hard work is the heart work.
I like that.
Right. So if you're not willing,
I'm keeping that one.
no. You can't take that one. That was
I'll credit you.
Yeah,
That's right.
But if you can't show up as a whole human being on set, wherever you are, no matter what it is, if your heart is not in a good place, then you're going to carry that into your work environment. You're going to carry that into your home. You carry that everywhere. So if we can't actually slow down enough to find out what's in our heart and what's driving us, then it'll actually drive everything around us. And we become the tyrant in our own life. And everybody's like, I don't even want to be around that guy. I don't even want to be near that guy. There's so much stress, animosity, anxiety. Like, you just start naming off everything, and it's like people don't even want to be around you. And you could be the most talented person in the room, but nobody wants to be with you. And I think there's so much more of this industry is if we can go in and find out what's driving our hearts, and we can be at peace with ourselves and be confident standing in whatever room. You may feel the imposter syndrome coming on, but when you're confident and it's the still quiet inside, then you can look at the imposter syndrome and go, no, this is where God's placed me. This is where I'm supposed to be. And now I can pull 100%.
Whew. You preaching today.
I'm preaching.
So it's that, I think, you know, but I think it's understanding that. And I think we get so fired up around our gifts, talents, and passions and things that we want to do, that if we'll slow down and do the things we should do, like that, like the hard work and like what you're saying, then you can actually live a lifelong journey in this industry with your family and your kids going, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Good word. Good word. Props to the preacher to the right. Yeah. You know, with doing the work behind the scenes in yourself, doing the work to learn the craft, builds a sort of influence, which is where you've kind of landed. You know, you've done all those areas, and now you have a great influence in this industry, which is great. Everybody strives for that. But what I love so much about you is your heart to want to give back with that influence. And tell us a little bit about that now, because that's kind of where you are now in your career with your YouTube channel and
Yeah.
all the content you create. And
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I'm not traditionally trained. Like
Mhm.
I going to film school, honestly, even finishing college outside of my first 2 years, just financially wasn't in the cards.
Yeah.
I don't come from money, so like
Yeah.
everything I had to learn was very self-taught and like learned the hardest way possible. Before YouTube was really like before there was like a lot of people posting content on YouTube and all the other social platforms that now exist. That stuff wasn't there when I
Yeah.
was first getting started. And so many times after I would like meet people and they were like, wait, you shoot like for a living? Like you make money doing that? And you like,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. And they're like, is it like a good a living though? And I'm like, well, I got 2 kids, I'm married and
Yeah.
we do okay. Like they
Right.
were like, oh, how do you do it? And I got that question so many times. I was like, okay, this is what I really want to talk about, you know?
Yeah.
And I want to try to help that next generation that's like coming up to like,
Yes.
one, know that like, if you can't afford to go to film school, like that doesn't mean that the option is gone.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
other ways that you can still make a
Yep.
living being a creator. Like I heard that phrase like, oh, like there are so many starving artists, starving
Yeah.
artists, starving
Mhm.
artists. I'm like, we're not starving. Like
Right.
there's money out here for us, you
Right.
know? Like you just got to know where to go and like how to
Yes,
get it.
that's right.
And so I was like, well, let me teach some
Yes.
people how to do that. And
love
what I
that.
love about like YouTube or really all the platforms now is that like I have audience members that are in like countries that I'll probably never visit.
Mhm.
Like,
Sure.
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
there's people all around the world who I've been able to communicate with or maybe help just like 2% in their journey. And like for me, that gives me that's like
Mhm.
my purpose. Like I feel like I'm fulfilling my
Uh-huh.
purpose by
So good.
helping that next generation who are maybe going through the same things that I went through, you know?
Yeah.
Like I said, like I started out, I mean, we had kids really young
Yeah.
and like that was a journey. Like that was a
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
I realized really quickly that I was like, okay, this is either going to be the most expensive hobby in the world, which is not really an option for me right now, because diapers are expensive. And I was like, or this has got to become like my job.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got to figure out how to make this work.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that path was so challenging that I was like, if I can save anybody like those first 2 or 3 years
Mm.
that I had to deal with, like let me help them in that
Yeah.
Yeah.
walk.
Yep.
And you know, I love that I've been able to do that with my YouTube
Mhm.
channel. And I also found that like YouTube also just allowed me to be creative. I could
Mhm.
try whatever I
Yeah.
wanted and I could try new things and I could talk about like other stuff that I was passionate about, like camera gear. Like I'm obsessed with camera gear.
Mm.
I love all the newest cameras that are coming out and the gimbals and everything, and I can talk about them. And accidentally I found out that, oh, this is all monetizable too. So like this is a whole nother like
Yeah.
revenue source that I
Yeah.
could utilize. And that just allows me to stay creative on a regular basis. I mean, we were talking about this like right before we started,
Yeah.
but like my goal every day is just to wake up and love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's
And
good.
I'm not trying to be like the richest person in the world. I really don't care. Like as long as my family is taken care of, like we have a roof over our head, food is taken care of, kids can play their sports,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
as long as
Yeah.
all that is
Yeah.
taken care of and I can wake up every day and enjoy what I'm doing, like I'm blessed,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like that for me is really kind of like where I am right now. And so
Mhm.
now it's just like, let me like enjoy this moment, but like at the same time, because I have the flexibility of schedule quite a bit, like I can also enjoy this time of like just being a dad, right?
Mm.
Because like
Yeah.
the years that I have right now with my kids,
Yeah.
this
So
is
true.
it.
Yeah.
So true.
Like I had like a it's not really a midlife crisis, like a mid-parenting life crisis, I guess.
Yeah.
Like my son turned 10 and like a couple of weeks after that, I just stopped and thought and I was like, he's halfway done.
Yeah.
Like 10 more years, he's 20. He's gonna be off in college and doing his own thing. And I'm like, oh man, it's halfway gone.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I need to recalibrate right now
Right.
so I can just enjoy
Mm.
this moment in time because I'll
That's
never
good.
get this one again,
right.
you know? And
That's right.
so thankfully, because of, you know, production and because of YouTube, and I just feel like it's maybe just a blessing in
Yeah.
time that like I didn't start YouTube trying to, you know, make it a full-time thing or anything, but I just wanted, you know, just a chance to give back. But through that pursuit, it's also allowed me to like really enjoy this time with my
Mm.
family.
Mm.
And the whole thing is kind of like this like perfect little balance that I'm like, every day I'm like juggling. I'm like, just keep it up, just keep it up, just keep it up. And so as long as I'm doing that, like I said, like it's wake up every day, enjoy what I do, enjoy my family. That's it. Like that's the goal. It's not to be rich or anything like that. It's just wake up and create.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when you got into this saying, there's so many creatives that we sit with did not go the conventional route. And then the ones that there are some that have gone the conventional route and they're so educated into a box, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, they know because they've been educated that they don't go outside of the box in creative land.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's kind of like you see both. I've seen and sat and talked to both sides of that coin. But when you got into it, much like myself, which was a large part of the heart of starting this podcast, was where was I going to tune in to hear like the real ins and out of the industry, like real stories of people that are doing it, that encouraged me to be like, I didn't know anything either. Like I didn't go to school, and look at me now. And you know, you've got all this, and I'm like, oh, it gives me chills because I'm like, okay, I can do it. I can do it. Like, you know, I feel like I am called to do this. I feel like I'm supposed to be in this industry and be a light and do things that are good. But I have no idea what I'm doing because I didn't go the conventional route. And it is based in hard work, grit, tenacity, perseverance, consistency, all the same things that we say on here a lot, you know?
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you started your content giving back.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I think that's what we all should be doing. You know, I feel like no matter how long you've been in this industry or what roles you play in this industry, like there was a point where we all knew nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was a point where you saw a camera for the first time, whether you were 8 or you were like me and you were a little bit older, and you were like, oh, I think I want to do something with that thing.
Yeah.
Like, there was a point where you didn't know anything. And that's one of the things I love about YouTube. Like, I have seen both sides. Like, as a creator, I get a chance to see like the YouTube side of things. But then as a, you know, as a like person in the industry, I get a chance to see the industry side of things. And one of the biggest distinctions that I've seen is that, at least when I was first getting into it, the industry, sometimes it can be a little guarded, right? Like people are afraid to tell their secrets, or like, what equipment are you using? And they're like, oh, you're not part of camera. You go over there with Grip Team or whatever. And the thing I love about YouTube is that it's wide open. Everybody's willing to share anything. And I think there's like that humbling factor that we all started with 0 subscribers. No matter how many subscribers a channel has, everybody started from 0. But what's crazy is in the industry, we all started with 0 knowledge too. And it took either someone recommended a book to you, or you learned from a professor, or you got invited onto a set and you just sat there and learned and soaked up as much knowledge from other people as you could. It just takes that like desire to learn and grow. And that's the thing that, like, for me, I just want to help people with, because I just know that, like, no matter where you are in your journey, if you're at 0, or, you know, from a scale to, you know, 0 to 10, whether you're at 0, you're at 5, or you're at 9, because I don't think anybody's ever going to be at a 10, because the industry's constantly changing and evolving. But no matter where you are on that scale, there's always something new to learn. I mean, just this year alone, we've seen like the explosion of AI and how that's changing our industry. And it's just like, whoa, like a lot of people get afraid about it, or, you know, whatever their feelings are. But for me, I'm just like, oh, this is new. This is knowledge. Like, this is something I don't know. Like, teach me, teach me, teach me. So then I can go teach others. And like, that's what excites me the most, you know? And so I feel like no matter where you are in your journey, there's so much to learn. And like, even if you are just getting started, like, don't let that be like a, you know, discouraging or anything. Like, be excited by like all the opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And with all that being said, and we're talking about the ones that just have, you know, 5 followers, 10 followers, 100 followers, or whatever. The content that you're putting out has to mean something to you. Like, if you're putting content out just for the money, the fame, and the followers, probably is not going to be the content that thrives.
I mean, I don't think that process is sustainable. I mean, if it's, I've seen it before, but like, if you're not passionate about what you're making, it's not going to last. Like, because eventually what'll happen is you won't see the return that you're expecting to see. And that's when you need the passion to kick in. Because as a creator, like, everybody has had that moment where you're like, and whether you're on YouTube or you're just making content for other people, like where you're just not fully enjoying it. Like I think a lot of people believe, like I've heard that statement, like, oh, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's not really true, because there's a lot of days where I'm doing what I love, but it feels like work.
Yeah.
You know, like there's some of those edits where you're pulling all-nighters and you're like, and I mean, I'm doing what I love, but this feeling like a whole lot of work right now. Like, do I not love this anymore? And it's like, no, I do. There's just, you know, there's still a lot of work behind it. And I think if you're creating content on whatever platform, when that moment kicks in, if there's no passion there, you're not going to be able to make it through those tough times. And I think like for most of us who've been in those situations where you're having to pull that all-nighter, or you're having to work on that project that you're like just ready to be done with, it's your passion that you know, like, oh, I got something else that's going to be coming that I'll be excited about, that's going to pull you through those tough times. And so as long as you're passionate about what you're doing, I think, you know, your follower count really won't matter to you either. Like, because completing what you're doing it's the process, you know, there's not like a destination. You're not trying to get to a certain amount of money or a certain number of followers.
Right.
It's really like the journey is what's giving you the fulfillment.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I think that's honestly the best way to go. I don't think, you know, just do something for the money, like, because it's going to change. Like, give it like a year, the technology will change, the industry will change, the algorithm will change. Something's gonna give. And like, if you don't have passion, when that gives, you got nothing else to stand on.
Yep. I agree. And I think this next generation, I mean, just think about it. I mean, we couldn't, well, maybe speaking for myself, maybe not y'all. Yeah, I couldn't measure my friends. Like, other than at the playground.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you could count them as if you were looking at them.
Yeah.
But you couldn't measure them.
Yeah.
You couldn't measure how much you were liked. There wasn't a value on that. It was just, you went through life being kind and nice, and, you know, it wasn't like who you know, and I'm not going to tell, or I'm not going to help you or be nice, because that could get you some more followers. You're like, okay, look, I'm going to introduce you to everybody I know, and we're going to be a big family on this, because that's just being nice, you know. And I think that so many of this next generation have got into this idea of measuring their value by what they can equate number wise, when just because you don't get the numbers doesn't mean that there's not value in it, and doesn't mean that it's not important to your purpose and your life that you're, you know, put here for and doing. So keep aspiring, keep being encouraged.
Yeah,
you know?
I think, you know, just being a good person, it resonates past numbers, you know, like I don't think, you know, like for me, my goal is I just try to love everybody and help as many people as I can. And my subscriber count's not going to change that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think is no matter who you are and where you are in your journey, like if your goal, like you said, like if you just focus on your heart, right? And you're just like, I just want to be a good person.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to find like the right people will be attracted to you.
Yep.
And like, what I always think is funny is like, those trolls that pop up, because it is the internet, right?
Yeah.
They're going to like, they'll pop up and then they'll scurry off.
Yeah.
Because they'll realize that because you're so like sure in who you are and that you want to be a good person, that like they can't say anything to like sway you. Like, the only time they win is if they do sway you to go
respond.
outside of character, right? And that's why it's like, that's just the moment where you just got to protect your heart. Just like, oh, I just like, this person doesn't even know me. I'm a good person. And like, it doesn't matter if I'm on social media or I'm off social media. You meet me in person. Like, I was just at NAB a couple of weeks ago and got a chance to meet a ton of people who had been following my platform. And like, initially to me, like it looks like a bunch of numbers, but when you see the people and you get a chance to talk to them and you have great encounters with them, you're like, and like they tell you their stories. For me, that's like the most like satisfying thing ever, because you get a chance to like put faces to what can just look like numbers, but they're not. They're real people. They're people who made a decision. Every single view on your platform, that's an actual person who's living a life, who's going through something, and they took a moment to consume your content. And so if you create content with the mindset of like, this is a gift for whoever chooses to consume it. Yeah. You can kind of stop thinking about algorithms. You can kind of stop thinking about views and like, oh, this video didn't get pushed out. It's like, oh, my video got 5 views. I made 5 people's day with a really good piece of content. Like, like sometimes we'll see like even like someone was complaining a couple days ago. They were like, yeah, my video only got like 1,000 views on Instagram. And I was like, what if I put 1,000 people in your living room?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
How would that
great.
feel?
That's
And they were
good.
like, overwhelming. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
1,000's a lot.
Yeah.
Like, don't overthink these numbers. I think that really comes when you start doing the whole comparison game.
Yeah.
But like, man, like
true.
we're so blessed to live in a time where like you can make something, put it out
Yeah.
there, and get real feedback instantly, which means as a creator, you can learn, adapt, and do it again.
Yeah.
And then you can
Yeah.
learn, adapt, and do it again, and keep doing that. And if you keep making really good content, you'll probably build up a pretty decent following that's willing to like consider like following you through your journey, which is, you know, we're just lucky to live in this time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all so good. So good, Brandon. Okay, last question. What's next?
You know, right now I'm really excited because my channel has really allowed me to have a lot of really cool opportunities to work with brands that I honestly thought would be like just a dream to work
Aw,
with.
yeah.
Recently I did a project with Red, and I honestly never thought I'd even be able to afford a Red camera, let alone work with them as a client.
Yeah.
And right now we're actually excited to be partnering up for another project here really, really soon.
Oh, great.
And that's really for me kind of like what's next is using my platform in a very strategic way to like shoot content that I'm extremely passionate about, work with brands that I've like really want to work with, but then teach the entire process. And I
That's
find
good.
that is like the perfect balance
Yeah.
for my content right now.
Yeah.
Is because I get a chance to win in all three situations. I can teach
That's awesome.
people what is it like to be on set, what does it take to get the projects done. I get a chance to work with companies that I really just I love their products,
Yeah.
and you know it's a really good fit. And
Yeah.
then also on my channel, we get a chance to make awesome content,
Yeah.
and we can post it out there, and I can enjoy those projects, and then at the same time like learn from those and then continue to evolve with that over time. And right now, I mean, the goal is just to keep evolving as a creator. I mean, I definitely don't think I am near my finish line. I think there's so much more that I have to learn, so much more I want to try. Like I'm so obsessed, like I said, with gears. So like I'm thinking about virtual productions and like FPV drones, and I'm like, can we take this camera underwater? Like
Yeah.
I've never filmed underwater. Let's give it a shot. Like
Yeah.
let's go for it. No pun intended. But like it's let's go. Like I think, you know, as a creator, the second you start putting limits on what you can do, you are going to just slow your growth. And
Yeah.
so I say I have like naive optimism.
Yeah.
Like I just think I can do anything. Like this actually gets us in trouble sometimes. So like clients will be like, "Hey, can you do this?" And I'm like, "Sure." And then like, you know, my assistant drivers will be like, "How are we gonna pull that off?" And I'm like, "I don't know. We're about to figure it out. Like, let's go." Like, I mean, of course we can figure it out, you know?
Yeah,
And like
yeah.
that's just kind of how my mindset has always
Yeah.
been. It's just like just say yes and figure it out. And like that's literally it. Even with my ideas, it's like, can we put this camera on an FPV drone? Like I'm sure we can, or somebody will figure it
Yeah.
out. Like
Yeah.
everything's impossible until it's done once, you
Yeah.
know? So like I think that way creatively too. Like I just want to try new things. And so I'm always open to like new project ideas. Like we just did a passion project a couple of weeks ago where a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I really like this video. You think you could pull off something like this?" And I was like, I mean, sure, yeah, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Let's take this camera and rig it on a motorcycle. Like, I don't know, like, let's do it. I'll call in some favors and see if we can't figure this whole thing out. And that's a project I'm really excited about too. So it's just
that's great.
trying new things. I don't know what all the new things are going to be because the tech keeps changing, the
Yeah.
industry keeps changing. And then what sparks my like creativity and my excitement changes.
Yeah.
So whatever gives me that spark, and I'm like, I immediately get giddy about it, where I'm like, everything else must stop and I need to focus on this now. Like that's really where I just like kind of like double
Drive.
down and just drive into it. So
Nice.
Yeah.
so yeah.
That's exciting.
That
That's
is.
exciting. And I can't wait for your new things to come out. Can't wait to see all of that on your channel. How can our audience find you? Where do they go to see all this great content?
So I'm pretty much at BWash Media everywhere. So on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. And even if you go to bwashmedia.com, that will give you access to all of my stuff. So whether you are trying to become a student or you want to find YouTube content or even work with us from a production standpoint, BWash Media will just be like a fantastic landing page for you. So even if you're not even sure, you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I want to do. Like, how do I find this guy?
Yeah.
bwashmedia.com or at bwashmedia on all the social platforms.
Perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was so great, man. Just so good hearing all your stories and the journey. It's just it's inspiring.
Oh,
So
thank you guys. I mean, I had a great time. So
Yeah.
this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was great. This was great. So go check out, send him some love, show him some support, and follow what he's doing. So until next time, we'll see you on Set Life.